This snare sounds like if you threw a dodgeball in a dryer. Hey everybody, welcome to Butt Rock in Review, your one-stop shop for butt rock. I'm Tim, and today we're looking at Metallica's Saint Anger. Now you may be saying to yourself, "Hey Tim, that's not butt rock." Yeah, I know, but it's my channel and I listen to what I want to. Now this album is the black sheep of the Metallica discography. Most people hate it or only admit to liking one song on it. Today we're going to dig in and see what it's all about. And before we get into it, I am aware that the snare on this album is a bit of a meme. I'm going to not mention it very much because once you get used to it, it still really sucks. But you do get used to it. Alright, track number 1 is Frantic. Now, I love this intro. It has a really nice build-up, nice feeling to it, and the riff switch is smooth. The verses on this are pretty sweet, and they really fit the name of the song. Right before the chorus, it goes into this really chilled out part of the song where it sounds like maybe they're using a sitar or just a sitar-like effect on the guitars. I really like it. The first chorus of this song brings up one of my main issues with this album, which is it sounds like James just forgot to start saying frantic in the first chorus where he's supposed to and just sort of picks it up the next time. And this is Metallica. They know how to play. They know how to sing. They know what good music sounds like. So to me, it seems like they took the second best take of everything and threw it on this album to give it that raw feeling that they were going for. But instead, it just sounds bad. After the second chorus, it cuts to just the guitar and then they build it back up, which leads into the first riff that actually sounds like a Metallica riff. And then the song just repeats until it ends. Track number 2 is Saint Anger. Now, I love this opening riff, and the verses are really catchy, and I love this vocal melody, except for the "it's rushing out" part. The pre-chorus is a nice start and stop riff that gets you pumped up for the chorus. The chorus itself is not great, but it's not bad either. After the second chorus, the song builds up to an interesting but ultimately underwhelming bridge that ends with James screaming, "Set it free." Now, I love this scream, mostly because it's terrible. I love when a vocalist does a scream without the proper technique. It just sounds so raw. It's part of why I love Second Stage Turbine Blade from Coheed so much. Some kind of monster. Track number 3 is Some Kind of Monster. Now, I have accidentally written this riff so many times while songwriting. It's just something that's stuck in the back of my head, and every time I feel like I want to write something badass, this riff just comes out, and then I get pissed because it's already, a Metallica song. It does sound like in the recording of this intro, they just left the mic on the snare, and you just sort of hear it vibrating with the guitar sounds. It sounds like shit. This intro goes on for way too long. Now, Metallica's known for long intros. They're kind of loved for long intros, but normally those intros have a solo or some interesting lead guitar in it, and this album pretty much completely lacks that. I think they're just used to having long intros, so they did it. I really like the verses, both musically and the vocal melody. Has a really nice feel to it, and the "we the people" part is just badass. It's probably the only part of the song where the shitty snare on this album actually fits the song. The song just keeps going and doesn't get much better. It feels like it's never ending. Again, I think Metallica's just used to having long songs, so they just threw in some filler to drag this out. Track number 4 is Dirty Window, and I love this opening riff. I love these verses, this driving, heavy feeling. Everything here just fits perfectly, aside from the drums. About halfway through the verse, the song just drops out and gets sludgy. It's a really interesting choice, but it only lasts for a second. And then the song gets really quiet until James starts yelling what sounds like the name of a bunch of He-Man villains. Just anything that ends with or. Then the song just turns into palm muting one single note. I don't miss that sound. Followed by just harmonizing the word I, but everything slightly out of tune, so it doesn't really harmonize. This would have been a perfect spot for a solo if Metallica were doing solos on this album. So I'm going to be one of those sellout YouTubers that asks you to like and subscribe and comment. I'd very much appreciate it. Track number 5 is Invisible Kid. This was my favorite song when this album came out, back when I was 13. The intro riff for this is okay, but it does actually sound like Metallica. This song specifically shows where the drum mixing is just at its worst. Everything is so muddy that the punchy transition to the verse that they were going for is just not there. It just falls into a verse, doesn't really have anything to differentiate it. I do love the vocals though. The pre-chorus is nothing special, but it leads into James's best singing on this album in the chorus. The riff after the second chorus just feels like it drags on forever. The song then breaks down and James sings probably my favorite melody on the whole album, though they could have used a better take of it. The song then just repeats until it ends. It's my world, sucker! Track number 6 is My World, and this intro just sounds like Metallica. Sounds like a Metallica song. I love it, and it keeps going into these great verses. The chorus itself is just okay, but the switch to the post-chorus riff is fucking wonderful. Then they just jam for a bit, and the song cuts out to the not only do I not know the answer part, and this is my favorite part of the whole album. I love the way this whole thing is set up. It's followed by a nice chunky riff and James singing his ass off. Then the song just focuses on the bass basically until it ends. This is a great song. Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Come on, shoot me again. Track number 7 is Shoot Me Again, and I don't know why, but this intro reminds me of System of a Down. They keep adding and removing elements to it until the song just explodes into this dancey, groovy, but still heavy main riff. It then calms down with no transition whatsoever into these great verses that are basically just mini crescendos. Then comes the terrible pre-chorus. James is saying, "Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet," in what I think he thinks is a tough guy voice, but it's fucking funny. He sounds ridiculous. Then we get into the actual chorus, which it sounds like the band is playing a Korn song while James is singing a Metallica song. I feel like that's kind of what they were going for with the whole album, and it really works here. The breakdown to this song has a nice build-up, but ultimately it falls flat. How sweet are you? Track number 8 is Sweet Amber. It's got this nice bluesy, clean intro riff that just shifts into a thrash version of the same riff. It's pretty badass. The vocals on the actual verse are okay, I guess. He's just sort of singing what the guitar is playing. And the using what I want part of the song is, I could take it or leave it. The chorus, though, is just fucking perfect. I love this chorus so much. After the second chorus, it turns into a Metallica song, and it is badass. And the song just keeps getting better from there. This is the best song on this entire album. Unnamed Feeling, track number 9 is The Unnamed Feeling. It's got an interesting intro that eventually incorporates a second guitar that sort of reminds me of Slipknot for some reason. Then we get a main riff with weird pinch harmonics and screaming. It's actually pretty badass. The verse then continues that Slipknot-y vibe with James performing one of his best melodies on the album. The It Comes Alive part of the song is just terrible, and the chorus that follows is also pretty terrible. The vowels that you choose to emphasize when singing are incredibly important. The U sound in comes that James uses here is just ugly. He does eventually switch it over to an O sound when the song gets a bit heavier and it's a little bit better, but the chorus is still not good. The song goes back to its quiet riff, and James's vocals here are just fucking terrible. You can tell that he's using Korn as an inspiration, but it doesn't work. Instead of sounding super emotional like Jonathan Davis, it sounds like what it is. It's Metallica trying to sound like Korn without realizing what it is that makes Korn good at that. A lot of people point to this album and say that it's a piece of shit, but they, for some reason, say that this song is the one good song on the album. I don't know where they're getting that from, because this song sucks. Track number 10 is Purify. Now, this is another badass intro leading into some weird as fuck verses. There's so many weird pauses that James takes here, and I love it. I can see why some people would hate it, but I really enjoy this. The chorus seems to come out of nowhere, but it fits perfectly. This song seems like it would be so much fun to play live. The song then builds up to some repetitive riffs that it seems like there should be a solo over, because without a solo or anything, it just seems like filler. Somehow this song drags on too long despite it being the shortest on the album. Track number 11 is All Within My Hands. Now this has a nice, dark, heavy intro that eventually just cuts out to this weird, reverby, Deftones-y kind of thing. The verse starts off with a pretty solid melody until it just cuts out into like a quiet System of a Down like area for a little bit. Then the song just smacks you in the face with a heavy version of the verse, and I fucking love it. It keeps this driving, heavy feeling for a while until out of nowhere the song becomes like a slow doom metal song. This song is just all over the place with genre. After this, the song basically just repeats that whole cycle again. The song then starts to sound like a Metallica song, and it's pretty badass, but then it just leads into more repeating of the song, with James just yelling the word kill over and 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 over again. There's a lot of repeating on this album. Alright, so that was Saint Anger. I really still enjoy this album. I thought maybe it would have just been some shit that I was into when I was 13. Turns out it's still pretty good. It sounds like shit. It's very poorly recorded. It sounds like they weren't trying at all, but I love the a good amount of the actual songs on the album. So altogether, I'm going to give this album a 6.5 out of 10. This could have easily been a 8 out of 10. That's how much I love these songs. It's just so poorly recorded. There's too much repetition, and it sounds like they weren't trying some of the time. And let me know what you would like me to react to next. I know this wasn't butt rock, but I mostly review butt rock, new metal. Eventually, I'm going to start doing some emo music, just anything that I grew up with. All right, thanks, guys.